Hey everyone, my name is Callie, and that's Luke. And I'd like to thank you for tuning in again to my YouTube channel. Today's video is going to be on Rose Etude number 2. Now, there are a couple of just really big rules that you want to kind of keep in mind when you're working on interpreting any of the Rose Etudes or any piece of music in general. So the number one thing you want to try to always have in the back of your head is the character of the piece, and I'm going to get into that in a moment. But the second big thing is obviously the technique, and I feel like a lot of players get so wrapped up in the technique of whatever it is they're learning that they forget that it's supposed to be, your decisions for technique are supposed to be guided by the kind of character that is going to be portrayed by the piece. So let your technical decisions be determined by the kind of character that you're going for. Now, if we dive into this whole character part of the piece, first we have to look at the clues that are written in the music. So at the very beginning, we have Allegro. Now, Allegro is a rapid, lively tempo, and so to me that, I look at that and I say, okay, well, it's in 3/8 time, which means 3/8 notes per measure, the eighth note gets the beat, but it's supposed to be at a rather rapid or lively tempo. So typically, 3/8 time is, conducted in one beat per measure. And so to me, that means I'm going to take this at a rapid tempo for the eighth note or a slower tempo for the beats per measure. So you can kind of take that through your own filter and determine how you want to interpret this. But the main thing is you have to believe that whatever you're doing really stays true to the Allegro quality that is written into the music. So now if you have an old edition of this, you really don't have any dynamics. Yeah, zero dynamics written in your music, period. So, you can go and buy, some newer editions of the music, and, there are various clarinetists out there who have written in different things that they like to do with this. But at the end of the day, you really have to choose. What do you want to do with dynamics? What do you want to do with phrasing, dynamic shaping, note length, things like that? Do you want to put rubato in here and there? All of those things are really up to you. So as you're watching this, take what I tell you to be, passed through your own filter of what you know, and just keep in mind, this is how I play this is how I interpret this, but it doesn't necessarily mean you have to do it the same way. Okay, so now, Allegro, we mean, this is a rapid, lively character. So I'm going through the music here. You have these slur two groupings, which to me, is like, oh, that's kind of a dance. Be-up, 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 bum. So, okay, looking through a little bit more, and you've got some legato things, okay. So that's a different sort of character, maybe more of a horizontal sort of phrasing I'd want to do there. And then there are these little articulated passages, usually only 2 measures long. So those are the 3 big articulation the articulation patterns that are kind of featured throughout this. And so you can kind of, think about, okay, how do I want to make these portray the character that I envision this piece to be? So to me, I actually really want this to sound a little bit like a dancing fairy. I want it to sound kind of light, and maybe on these longer slurred passages that kind of swirl around, maybe the fairy's like, swirling around some leaves in the tree or something like that, and then you get to these and, maybe she's dancing from one little flower to another. And so I think it's really easy now to kind of go into the very technical aspect of playing this etude. And I want to bring your attention to the type of articulation you want. So if I'm like, okay, I want this to be a cute, dainty little dancing fairy, I'm not going to play these articulations like, a hippopotamus getting stuck in the mud. I'm going to try to figure out, you know, how I can make these like articulated sound effortless and light and fun. So in no way should these sound heavy or labored. And so again, use your vision of the character to determine how you want your technique to sound. So you know, from another very technical standpoint, it's really easy to make these slur 2 groupings sound uneven and rushed. And so it sounds a lot of times, even when I was preparing this, and even when, you know, if you listen to the recording I just did, I think there are a couple spots where there's still a little bit uneven, which it's not perfect, but it's, you know, the best I can do at the moment. So anyway, so you want to make sure that these groups of slurred 2 notes don't end up sounding like a 32nd tied to a dotted 16th. So you want to avoid making it sound bia 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 bia, because then it, you know, it sounds like maybe your fairy has a broken wing or something and can't really fly. So try to keep those really even. And so one of the things that I like to do with that is typically the slur 2 grouping, the notes that have the slur 2 groupings are usually in 2 measures. So I will typically do a little bit of a crescendo through the first measure and decrescendo through a little bit through the second measure, depending on the musical line of the piece. But a lot of times if we find that we have a technical issue, such as uneven slur 2 groupings, if you think creatively and try to find a musical solution to the problem, it becomes a lot easier to stay true to the character that you're trying to portray, and it also becomes easier to just practice it. And all of a sudden, instead of being a robot, you know, playing everything perfectly even, you are a human being playing music. And that's essentially what you want to achieve with any kind of music that you're preparing. So another very technical thing, if you kind of go about, I don't know, like 5 or 6 lines down, you have that little trill. A lot of students kind of get, you know, hung up on that trill, and I think a lot of people think that it needs to be like 5,000 trills all in the course of that 1/8 note. You know, I can't trill that fast, so if you guys want to put more than 1 trill on that note, go right ahead, be my guest, but I can't do it. So I only put 1 trill, and that allows me to do the trill and the grace notes all in 1/8 note's worth of time, and it ends up sounding a little bit like a quintuplet going into the next downbeat. Yeah, and you'll also see that at times I slow down a little bit, like right before that little grace note trill pickup. I slow down a bit and give myself a moment to breathe. So, I mean, I personally don't have any issues with that as long as it makes musical sense. Again, you're not a robot learning these things. You're a human being. You need to breathe. And, you know, this stuff in here is based off of Romantic era music, which has a little bit of flexibility in it. So I think it's okay to take time here and there, as long as you make sure it makes musical sense. Okay, so now we go back down. A couple lines later is the most treacherous spot, and the reason why I had to redo this excerpt so many times, and it's because of this high F. So I really didn't want to sound like a really angry cat on this and so I tried a whole bunch of things. I tried making it really soft, and that just didn't sound fun or anything. And I tried making it really powerful, and that just didn't really sound in character to kind of what I envisioned. And so I just try to make it sound more as vocal as possible, and I try to lead to it so that I have enough air behind it. And then from a very technical standpoint, I think a lot of players tend to want to pull the corners of the embouchure back toward the ears. It's almost like we're saying gross. It's a high note. So don't be afraid of that. Keep your corners going in or forward and your top lip down. So that way you're not clamping with your jaw and making that high note sound really pinched off and jittery. You want to give your high notes, any of your notes, anything you play, you want to give it room to like really vibrate. So make sure you're just not pinching things off. Yeah, and then, you finish it off. I like to do a little bit of a graceful ritardando at the end because I feel like, after this little adventure that the fairy just went on, maybe she's just decided to land and retire for the day. Yeah, so basically that's how I play this etude. It's a lot of fun. It's a great one if you want to get really good at different types of articulation in more of a light kind of dance-like fun little style. And you don't have to take it as fast as I do, or if you feel it faster, you can take it a lot faster than I do. So this is just one interpretation of how to play Rose Etude number 2, and I hope it can kind of help you decide what you want to do with it. Enjoy. Before I go, I just want to remind you guys that your subscription really matters. So if you're tuning in for the first time, please subscribe to my channel. I have more content coming up and I'm really excited about it. Also, you'll get to see more of this little guy named Luke. And my other cat, Camille, which she's sleeping on the floor over there and you can't see her and I'm not going to show you because my apartment's a mess. Anyway, so please subscribe. Please leave a comment below if you have any questions or if you have any ideas of stuff you'd like me to talk about in videos. But in the meantime, thanks again for watching and happy practicing!